Welcome to again my commentaries on the upcoming Sundays of the church year. As we approach this Sunday of June 28th and the observance of what's called the 13th Sunday in Ordinary Time in the Catholic liturgical calendar, we are confronted with something very, you might say, basic, almost too human to wonder, is it really part of religion? And that is hospitality. Hospitality is that grace, is that ability of a person to welcome another into their home, our welcoming of sometimes strangers, those we don't know, into our churches. But it's always you might say, a warmth to someone we may not exactly know who needs some kind of help, a moment of rest, a moment of kindness, a moment in which we share some of that love that we say we profess that we live from Jesus Christ. And so it's very important. It's more than a social grace. In a sense, it is the command of God, especially for us who are Christians and Jews and Muslims, to exhibit ourselves in a very friendly way to especially the stranger. Of course, centuries ago, when there were no hotels or inns or gas stations, a traveler needed a place to stop. Abraham is one of the great examples, a person to whom all of our major religions, Muslims, Christians, and Jews, look to as a great example of a friend of God, exhibits this in many ways, and he exhibits a moment in the scriptures where three strangers are coming by his tent, and it's a hot day. He says, "Stop here. Come under my lovely tree. I'll get you something to eat and drink, and we can have a little conversation. You can rest a while as you make your journey to wherever you're going." And the story unfolds, of course, that first of all they're announcing to Abraham that his wife Sarah is going to have a child, and he will be the father of many nations. He didn't think he would ever have a child, even though God promised that he would be the father of a great nation. Then they unfurl a further story about his poor nephew Lot, who is in difficult situations in Sodom. And that is also shared during this moment of hospitality that Abraham exhibits as to be the example for us who are followers of Abraham, the friend of God. Recently, I came across a beautiful story of another form of hospitality. This took place in the middle of the riots that took place after the death of George Floyd in Washington, D.C. Some of these protesters were on a side street making their way away from the protests when suddenly they didn't realize they were in violation of a curfew. And suddenly the police were chasing them down the street. One of them took the advantage of a door they saw of a condo and knocked on the door, and the owner, they say, we're going to be arrested, And the owner said, "Well, come on in here. And he let them all in their house. Actually, one after another. It almost sounds like a comedy show. They ended up like 65, 70 people were squeezed into a small condominium, and the owner was very happy to have them. They didn't want to be arrested for the violation of the curfew. And at first the police tried to get him to open the door and get in there. And he said, no, they're not doing anything wrong. If the curfew is in effect, they'll stay here until the curfew ends in the morning. And that's exactly what happened. Our friend, this man who offered hospitality, went out and got some pizzas, and even some of his neighbors in the neighboring condos or townhouses, I don't know exactly what kind they were all offering food to these refugees, you might say, did not want to be arrested and didn't want to go to jail. After a while, the police relented and they just left the area, probably happy that they didn't have to arrest all these people, and happy they were somewhere. They were in place. They didn't have to worry about them. And by the time the next morning came, he opened the door and all of them went home. So it's a very interesting example of modern day hospitality. I know none of us would be too happy to have that kind of a situation. Somebody knock on the door and one after another pile in our house for that reason. But this man had a sense of real hospitality in his heart for these people. The message of hospitality is a great message, more important today than ever before. In some parts of the world, it's the only way one can get help, a place to sleep. Just like the prophet Elisha, as he was traveling around, he hopefully had somebody would give him a meal, give him a glass of water, give him some rest for a moment as he made his journey. So we pray that we would be as hospitable as was Abraham, as hospitable as this young man was to these protesters, as hospitable as we are called to share our life and our love in our homes and in our churches with those around us. God bless you.